Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Here, we look closely at the intersections of the postpartum window, the Ayurvedic perspective on health and healing, and the universal mother principles that are the keys to giving and receiving effective care. Hello, I'm Christine Eck. I'll be taking you through interviews with professionals who are making a profound difference in the lives of their clients, conversations with individuals brave enough to share their stories of vulnerability as a way to lift up others, and my own journey through birth, parenting, caregiving, and building a conscious business. We are here to honor the sacred windows, the profound transitions in life that give it all meaning. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Hello, welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Today is a really important conversation because it's one that never seems to stop being relevant in some way, shape, or form. My guest here today is Kristen Timchak. Kristen and I have been connected through other people, I feel like, for years, even in, living in the same town without knowing one another for a while. Kristen is currently based in Maine. She's an Ayurvedic health counselor, a somatic stress release facilitator, a resilience coach, and a mother. Kristen is often working with folks specifically on nervous system support, chronic stress, neuroplasticity, and resilience. You have a special place for moms and caregivers in your practice. This is an area where more and more we're seeing how the stresses of the world are impacting everything we do. But today in our conversation, Kristen and I are really going to look specifically at postpartum care providers, birth workers, and even like really busy moms. Like we're all sort of facing this element of culture not honoring the care provider and how we have this natural calling in our souls to do this work, and yet when it's not supported by society, we often suffer without a solid support system ourselves. So, Kristen, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Christine. It's such a pleasure, truly.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive in, and I'm curious, when was it that you realized that nervous system was where you needed to direct your care practice?
Well, I guess it started. After graduating from Ayurveda school, I was working in Western Massachusetts at a small Panchakarma center and learning all of the Panchakarma therapies and being in that space really showed me how, especially for our Western culture, at the core of Ayurvedic practice is this idea of the nervous system, of the putting the oil on the body, of the food that we eat, of all the ways that we're trying to calm and balance vata dosha. It's so much about the nervous system, and that nervous system work in a lot of ways can't be extricated from any other type of healing work that we're doing. It has to be a part of it. And so that thread kind of went on. I studied herbs, and I was always drawn to all of the nervous system herbs. And it was a practice in my life. But I think the moment that it really became apparent that this is the work I need to do was after giving birth. I had my son when I was 42. There was a lot of stress happening in my life at that time. And then having a child, I stopped doing a lot of the practices that I had been doing to take care of my nervous system. I stopped taking a lot of the herbs. I didn't have the space for self-care. And so I found myself in this position where I was fatigued, I was gaining weight, I was depressed with anxiety, and I ended up getting diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And that was this turning point moment for me where I was like, oh, right, I know about all of the stuff. I've been studying Ayurveda for 15 or so years. I've been doing all these practices, yet it's not just about knowing the practices, knowing what helps the nervous system, but actually doing it every day. It's the small little things. And it became really apparent for me. And so my way out of that place was really through my nervous system, through putting oil on my body, through doing yoga nidra practices, through all these ways that I help to nourish myself and really making it a practice. And it just became apparent that this is the focus that I want to bring to other people, especially to mothers and people who are care providers, because I think, like you said, our world pushes us so much and we need to really learn how to take up the time to care for ourselves.
Yeah, there and it's like, what I'm excited to talk today with you about is like, yeah, like we can know all those things. We can know the theory, we can know the science, we can know the stuff, but it's that like layer of getting through to making it non-negotiable that is like the thing. So just like, for folks who maybe are not familiar with Ayurveda and how we look through that lens at the nervous system. Yeah, like, so this is, everything, all the layers of health are all connected with one another through the Ayurvedic lens. So when we're looking at the nervous system, it's not an isolated tissue system. It is one that, particularly because of its subtle nature, because of, the Vata dosha, which is, the air and ether elements, this is so immediately impacted and so connected to the impact that it will have on all of the other systems of the body. Can you talk a little bit about that? Let's just like look very, very like practically and like sciency at like when our nervous system is impacted, it like other stuff happens.
Right. Absolutely. Like you said, one of the things I love about Ayurveda is how it's not separating different systems, but really looking at the body as a whole. But in Ayurveda, we talk about the different body constitutions. You mentioned Vata. So Vata, like you said, it's air and ether. It's light, dry, mobile, cold. And if we were living in a vacuum, Vata dosha would just be in balance with Pitta, the fire, and with Kapha, the earth and water. Everything would be in balance. But because we are not living in a vacuum and because the nature of our modern world is the way that it is, already in our world, we have a lot of excess Vata dosha. We are moving quickly. We're driving in cars. We are going in airplanes. We are watching things on screens. We're getting tons of information. Everything is moving very fast and subtle. If you think about the nature of a screen, there's this subtle element to it. And so these things are really exaggerated in our world and it's affecting our nervous system. So our nervous system is basically it's our brain, it's all of our nerves, it's connected with our senses, which is also a huge thing in Ayurveda. And it's our body's way of adapting to stimulus around us. So we encounter something that is unknown, we have a nervous system response, maybe a sympathetic nervous system response where our breathing might get shallower, our heart might beat faster, our digestion and procreative parts of our systems turn way down, where our survival parts of our system turn way up. And if we find that that threat is a threat, we're going to move into action. We're either going to the proverbial fight or flee or freeze or fawn states where we are going to create some sort of action in our bodies that is going to help us move through that situation. If we find that that thing is not a threat, then our body goes back into a parasympathetic state, which is the state where we are, they call it the rest and digest, where the heartbeat starts to slow, the body starts to calm, digestion and procreation come back online, and we come back into homeostasis. And so I think one of the problems in our society is that there's so much chronic stress. There's so many stressors that are coming at us all the time that we're not able to complete those stress responses. We're not able to come back to move our bodies in the way we need to move them and come back into that parasympathetic homeostasis state. We're just constantly getting triggered and triggered and triggered. And so, from an Ayurvedic perspective, we can look at that through the lens of Vata dosha, that Vata, because it's more fragile, it's more light and airy, that it's constantly getting stimulated. We need to find grounding. We can also look at it through the lens of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, that we're kind of being put a lot into a more Rajasic state, which is a more activated, um, in balance, it's like our motivation, our drive to do things. Out of balance, it's like anxiety, fear, anger, all of those things. So we're getting triggered a lot into Rajasic states and need to find the ways to create more resilience to come back into a more sattvic place, into a more grounded place in our lives. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I kind of went off on a little tangent, but yeah.
No, this it's beautiful. And it's, whether or not we have studied this lens of Ayurveda, like we're all living it. Like we all,
Yes.
I think, when listening to this, can recognize some of those feelings and sensations that come up just as we're navigating like regular old life. And I think that it's also that chronic stress response is something that people start to just adapt to as their normal state. So much so that it's like, we almost don't even recognize what it feels like to be fully in that parasympathetic space. And this is really, really what I think the basis of, conscious care as we talk about it a lot in our programs, like it's not about just giving to the other person. It's like we have to access that as well. And it's about as I'm listening to you, I feel so fired up in the way that like it's not actually acceptable for us as, humans to be at the mercy of all of the imbalances of society around us. Like it is our absolute right to be able to access a regulated nervous system. And, of course, there's so many things that, are out of our control. And there are going to be those times in life where it is like fight, flight, freeze, flee, all of the things. Um, and in the moments where we do have autonomy, like this is the place where for me, I think it's become so clear as I get older that there are certain things that where maybe in my 20s or 30s, I could just kind of like put off, similarly to how you were talking at the beginning, Kristen, about after you had your child, like there's such um it's such a time of natural sort of stress and transition and expansion and trying to land and trying to integrate all of the new things. And during those times of transitions, things that were routine are like flipped upside down. And so we no longer have that really cool rhythm that we, had created before. But now, like as I get older, I'm realizing that I have to look at certain things as non-negotiable because the impact that I could receive from really prioritizing certain things and nervous system health is one of them. The rewards from doing that are so profound and allow me to actually continue to doing the things that are important to me way longer, way better, way more authentically, with more joy moving forward. And as a human, this is like our right to experience those
Yes.
things. And it's not built into our society to prioritize nervous system regulation. Like nobody knows those skills off the bat unless it was modeled for us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. It's wild. When you were talking, I was just thinking about something So I was diagnosed with the Hashimoto's maybe 3 years ago, and it was a big, just a big upheaval time of my life. But I've come to this place where I feel really well again. And so I've been noticing that I've really had to watch those tendencies that want to push more, that want to do too much as I'm starting to feel better. And it's like just what you're saying. It's this thing like if we let it, the pace of our society just takes over because there's still some story in my mind that's like, I need to I need to show stuff on the outside to prove that I'm valuable, to prove that I'm worthy. I need to be making this certain amount of money. All these things, these stories start to creep in. And it's this real practice of looking at that and also really, as I get busier, really making the concrete steps to take care of my nervous system. Maybe like a month ago, I taught at the Common Ground Fair in Maine, which is this big, huge Maine Organic Farmers and Growers Association puts it on. It's this huge fair. It's amazing, very nourishing, but extremely sensory overload. Just so many people, so much stuff. And I taught all 3 days. And 10 years ago, I would have just pushed through. I would have gone and taught, maybe gone and danced that night, done stuff, talked to people. But now in my life, with all of this awareness, I came home every day. I did a yoga nidra practice. I put oil on my body and I just really had to do the things. And there was this part of me when I got home that's like, oh, you should do the dishes that are in the sink. Oh, you should do that over there. And it's like, no, I have to prioritize this. The dishes are still going to be there. The other things I need to do are still going to be there. But I need to take at least this 15 to 30 minutes that I could easily spend just zoning out on Instagram and do these things to take care of myself. And I found that after the weekend, I was tired, but I didn't feel depleted because I had done those practices. And so I think it's something, especially as caregivers, because we do know this stuff, but actually putting it into practice is where the true benefit lies.
100%. And Kristen, it's like what you just said, like 15 minutes. Like it's not like we're needing to like go on retreat for a
Right.
weekend. Like I have 4 kids and like just last night I was like trying to figure out this like totally convoluted, insane schedule for the weekend, like with my husband, like how is all of this supposed to happen? I don't understand. Like there's not a lot that we can do that will pull us out of everyday life for extended periods of time at this moment. I feel like when we are in the thick of pitta stage of life, when we're raising families and we're raising businesses and we're doing projects and we're involved in community in so many ways, we are like out facing and putting out so much and taking in so much. And still, what you're describing is like a really manageable way to create a sustainable and really satisfying way to still hold all of this and
Hmm.
not feel like we're spinning out of control or crashing. How are you sharing your gifts and passion for caregiving with others? In a world where education and awareness around the postpartum window is lacking or missing from our modern systems, we have a profound opportunity to shift that paradigm. You may be a few simple offerings away from making a truly impactful difference in the lives of mothers and families in your community. We are here to support your journey in the ways that work best for you. Schedule a conscious care strategy session to meet one-on-one with me, and let's identify the right next step for you to begin a path of conscious care for new families that fits your life and your needs. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session to schedule a time that works best for you. That's www.sacredwindowstudies.com /strategy strategy-session.
Yeah, I think just when we were talking about caregivers and people who and new mothers or anybody who's in this role where they're caring, and just how that lack of I want to say lack of resonance with the structure of our current society. And it makes me just think about about patriarchy and the way that it's making us fit into these boxes of schedule of time that don't actually fit our wild natural rhythms. And that's one of the things I love about Ayurveda is so much about coming back to ourselves, getting situated in the self, coming back to who we are, and recognizing that we are nature. We're not meant to be in these boxes. We're not meant to produce and go and do all the time. We need to have that rhythm of create and rest. And we see it everywhere when you look outside in nature. Like, we're the only thing living on this planet that doesn't follow that rhythm. And so, yeah, it's no wonder that people are getting sick. It's no wonder that caregivers are getting burnt out. It's no wonder that, mothers are having exponential rates of mental health disorders. Like, our society is not made, especially for the female bodied cycle. I think our cycles are really different, but I think everybody's affected by patriarchy, whether you're female bodied or male bodied. I think we're all indoctrinated into this system, and I think it's hurting all of us to be out of tune with ourselves.
Yeah, I think so too. The structure has really, the structure itself like doesn't have the um sort of the humanity and the soul to like really recognize it. But all humans, like if you really connect with anyone, no matter like if it is someone who is totally opposite to you in so many ways, like when we really like where we come together are those things that's like I feel depleted when blank, or I like the most joy I've ever felt is when, it's always going to
Hmm.
come back to like connection, like human, like love and the humanity, so yes, we are working and operating in a system that doesn't support those real human priorities. However, we are the humans who are like creating and operating within that system and can influence it. And so, whoever we are, whatever it is that we're doing, whether we are a busy postpartum doula or, a busy parent or, in another caregiving role where we are putting out, we have this opportunity to like rewrite the expectation and rewrite the script. Like we are not actually bound in all ways by the system that doesn't honor what is in balance, what is required to experience that balance. And so I really love that there is a lot of autonomy, and it honestly comes down to how much do we like, are we willing to love ourselves enough to do it differently?
Yes, absolutely. I think that is just what it comes down to. I often think about this term of like rest as revolution. It's like the more that we can start to, as you said, take care of ourselves, to rest, to love ourselves, to um, think about to tune into our bodies, to think about what our bodies need, to feel what our bodies need, and to follow that. The more that we can do that, and it starts to ripple out, and that it starts to be a fundamental change of society. I mean, I already see there's so many people talking about these concepts right now. And I think there's a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that we have to take this into our own hands. We have to take our own rest into our own hands, our own health into our own hands. And yeah, come back to that simple idea of being situated in the self, finding what works for your body, and how do you love your body? And it's going to be different than how somebody else loves their body. How do you resource yourself? What really makes you feel alive? What really makes you feel rested. And it could be really different. It doesn't have to be Zen or woo or anything like that. I always say, like, if going to a punk rock show and moshing in a mosh pit helps you to feel really yourself and empowered and relaxed afterwards, and like, that's your medicine. Go for it. It doesn't have to look any specific way. You just have to really find and follow what helps to resource you.
Yeah, I love that, Kristen, so much because I was thinking, of course, like I want in these conversations, these podcast episodes to like provide like practical, but I also feel like it can very easily slip into that sort of pitta brainy thing of like, okay, now I've got to learn this wellness technique and I've got to go find this oil and now I got the shopping list of things that I got to go do and things I have to learn and research. And it's like, no, 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 I don't want to go there. I want to look at it in like real time of like how like what is it looking like for me today, this week? What is it looking like for
Yes.
you today, this week? And like helping our listeners to really be like, okay, I'm meeting myself where I am with what I know, with what I have. No need to like learn anything new. Let's just like use my own perfect like inner Ayurvedic teacher because we're all humans living in human bodies. Therefore, like this is the best teacher we have. And I feel like, okay, so over the weekend, I had like an insane like 6 hours of like running to and fro, beginning at like 5:30 in the morning, all for like my children's activities and sports and like all over the place. And then like everything for 6 hours was like for other people. There was no like moment for myself to do something that I wanted to do. And I came home and it was like 1 in the afternoon and I'd been going, going, going. And one of the boys was like, "Can you please drive me over to my friend's house?"
Oh my
And I
God.
like was crashing. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't, I can't get in that car again. I can't do this." And I literally felt myself like unable to communicate in a way that wasn't going to sound like I was yelling at him or like being too sharp. But I literally didn't have anything left. And like
Hmm.
what I ended up doing was I did cave and bring him to his friend's house, but it wasn't very far. But I came home and I literally just went to my bed and I like took an hour and just like turned off the lights and I just like it was like sensory turn
Hmm.
off and like everything was quiet. And I remember I think I like put a hand on my heart and a hand on my womb and just like laid there and breathed. And I think like that's all and eventually I think I fell into a little bit of a sleep, but it was like I needed stillness, I needed dark, I needed quiet. And that's pretty much all I needed at that point. And then I was able to like get up and kind of handle the day a little bit after that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think about the senses a lot just in our world because we're just using our senses more, especially sight and hearing. We're always listening to things, we're always watching things. We have our phones where we can constantly plug into things. And so I think those a sensory reset is so huge. It's such a simple thing, right? You don't need any fancy equipment. You don't need to buy anything. There's just it's just turning off the senses and having that moment, that pratyahara, that withdrawal of the senses is so healing. It's so nourishing. Another just little practical thing that's also super accessible, I call it like the somatic pause. So anytime during the day, you can just stop for a moment and just take a moment to feel your body. Notice places where there's tightness or tension. Notice, your connection with the ground, with whatever you're sitting on or standing on, and just notice your body. Take a couple breaths. They don't need to be any special kind of breath, even just noticing your breath. How is your breath moving in your body right now? Where do you feel sensations? Do you feel coolness or hotness or tingling or something stuck or something stagnant? And just notice those things. And then you could, if you have the space, if you're in a space where you can do it, you could bring a little bit of movement. Oh, my shoulders are really tight. I'm just going to kind of roll them out a little bit and get some energy flowing there. Oh, like my belly feels clenched. Can I bring some breath into there and try to soothe it? It's just a really, it could take literally 30 seconds. But if you're checking in with yourself on this way regularly, oh my gosh, regularly, you get better and more attuned with it. And it just helps to give you a little checkpoint of how am I doing? How can I shift things? And it's amazing how much you can shift just by giving the attention, by bringing your attention and the prana into your body in different ways, how much can shift.
And I think I could have, like, knowing how dramatic that crash was, like, I could
Hmm.
have been doing that during those 6 hours in the morning periodically.
Right.
Like, there were moments where, like, you know, like I could have done that a few times. And I think that that would have helped.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
practice, it's just, it's something before we're aware of it. It's so easy to just keep on pushing through. But I think that it's just beginning to practice it and then it becomes easier and easier. And no one even knows that you're doing it. It's just a simple little internal reset. And yes, like you said, it's like if you think about the stress as a bucket, what you did, like you like dumped out half that bucket by doing that sensory withdrawal. But yes, we can also just take little scoops off of the top of the bucket throughout the day, and it also really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. What is, like, for you, what are the different ways that you can take scoops out during the day? Like, other than that, simple sort of sensory reset.
Yeah, I think for me, like moving my body is a huge way that I take scoops out, even if it's doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Like bringing the dog for a walk, like that helps. Sometimes I'll just put on one song. It could be 2 or 3 minutes long, and I just shake. It's not even dancing. It's literally just shaking the stress out of my body, and it helps to complete stress response cycles. And so it helps to take some of those scoops out. Um, Nature. It doesn't have to be being even going for a huge walk. Everywhere you are, there's the sky, there's clouds, there's birds. You might be able to see some sprouts of nature, even if you're in the middle of a city. It's just tuning in to whatever the nature is, even just standing outside for 5 minutes and watching the clouds in the sky can help to reset and bring your nervous system into a more relaxed place. So those are a few. And then, 5 minutes of meditation. It doesn't have to, and like I said, it doesn't have to be any certain type of meditation. It can just be withdrawing your senses or even bringing your attention into your senses. What do I smell right now? What do I hear? How does the air feel on my skin? Just really simple, small things that you can do, but the trick is doing them consistently because the more that you do them, I mean, studies are proving this that a short practice done consistency has more benefit, more impact than doing one huge practice once every other week or something like that. It's like really the small little steps actually make a big difference.
I love that. And for me, it's so much about what is the intention behind what is.
Yes.
So, for those of us who are doing a lot, which is probably every single person who's listening to this, like, creating just, like, I have to walk my son to the bus every morning. So on that walk back, like, I can take a moment and breathe, and I'm just walking with the dog, and, like, let's make this a medicinal moment. Okay,
Yes.
I have to, like, eat my lunch. Like, let's create a medicinal moment out of, like, this routine of preparing food, and let's breathe while I'm doing it. Like, nothing has to be added. I can just totally create medicine out of every single thing I'm doing.
Yes. I love that. Making the habitual ritual, making it like, even I think about that, even like taking a shower. We do that all the time. We can just take a shower and autopilot through it, or we can really feel the water on our skin. We can imagine the water pouring off our bodies and bringing our stress or our trauma, whatever it is, down the drain. It's like, yeah, like you said, that so encapsulates it perfectly. Just taking the small moments and making them medicine. So beautiful.
It is so beautiful. And it's honestly, folks, like I know that there's so much out there that is, you know, it just can become redundant. Like, but I'm telling you, like, this is the doorway to accessing the best parts about being alive. Like,
Yes.
when we can access those moments, it's like, yes, this is what it's all about. This is how I like hear my inner voice. This is how I like create true connections with my children or my clients or my spouse. Like, this is where it's all at. And
Hmm.
without the ability to like remove the sort of the clouds, the veils of like intensity that society creates around us, without the ability to like move through that, I can't actually authentically connect in the ways that make it all worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
becoming fully alive, becoming alive in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Ah.
Much. I understand why you were drawn towards this path. And
Mhm.
I think there's so much there for, I'm so fascinated by like the becoming parts of life, of, the transitions that we go through from different stages and the sacred windows, but so like all of it is like about that subtle layer, and how can we become into it? How can we learn more and move through it and become more of ourselves
Mm.
through that transition? And whether or not it's like becoming a parent, like transitions are just a part of all of our experiences throughout. And this skill set, this beautiful ability to understand the nervous system and the subtle bodies is it's forever fascinating and really incredible. I'm curious how, I know that you work one-on-one with people, but talk a little bit about your direct work with
Mhm.
folks.
Yeah, so I work one-on-one with people, and I'm an Ayurvedic health counselor, so I do health consultations. I really love working around stress and resilience, but also digestion and immunity, because I think this is all very related. Our nervous system, digestion, and immune systems are so deeply interconnected. Um, and something I've been very interested in lately is how to take the Ayurvedic work, like, and give people the little lifestyle changes, but then also to do sessions where we work somatically on stuff, where we actually go into the body and see where the stress is living and work with the actual stress to release and remove the stress in the body to help to actually really make the deeper change in patterns. I really love working with neuroplasticity and help people to work with their minds to change their beliefs around what they're doing. So right now, currently one-on-one, I do retreats, Ayurvedic retreats in Searsport, Maine, 4 times a year. And I have a podcast called The Nourished Nervous System. And I'm starting to do some stuff online. It's still in the very beginning stages, but I'm envisioning something called Rhythm and Ritual that's going to be kind of seasonal programs where we can kind of dive in and really start to, as a group, work with these concepts of how to bring more rhythm and ritual into our lives to create more resilience.
So beautiful. And there's something so potent at being on that journey with others who are, committing to that. There is a layer of impact that happens when we're not alone going through something.
Yes.
Um, and so I'm gonna make sure that listeners have all of the information to continue to follow you. Kristen, you're doing really important work in this
Mm.
world, and I had the privilege of being on your podcast
Hmm.
recently, and it's just such good stuff on there. So listeners of the Sacred Window podcast will definitely align with what you're talking about, what you're teaching, the conversations you're having. Um, I feel honored to be connected with you. Thank you so much.
I feel the same. I loved having you on my podcast, and I'm so honored to get to be here. And I love the work that you're doing. It feels so deeply important. So, yeah. And you're just such a lovely human. So, I'm so happy to make this connection real.
Yes, same, same. More to come from Kristen, folks. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for being part of this community, and we will see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Center for Sacred Window Studies has been training postpartum care providers, professionals who work with new families, and individuals passionate about postpartum care since 2018. We regularly host live free events alongside our online and in-person training and certification programs. Hop on our newsletter list to get direct access to all of our events and community support gatherings. Our mission is not only in training conscious postpartum care providers, but in fostering a robust, informed, and thriving community of postpartum professionals. Once you step inside, you're family forever. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com to add your email to our newsletter list. You can support our work by subscribing to the Sacred Window podcast and sharing with someone you know who would love it. Thanks for being here and participating in the culture-wide shift that recognizes the need for and the importance of conscious postpartum care.